Thank you all for joining this morning. We are going to give just a few more minutes to see who else would join us, and we'll get started shortly. All right, well, we'll continue to see if others join us, but with a short time today of only 30 minutes to chat about a very important topic, I was going to go ahead and get us kicked off this morning. Thank you all again for joining. Um, the webs or the WordPress controversy that's going on right now, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We understand it can be confusing. It's hard to know what to focus on, what not to focus on. So we are happy to host this today and at least open the door for questions. If you're not already familiar with Pixo, which I believe everybody is, but we are a software consultancy in Urbana, and we create custom software, applications, and websites that address unique challenges. I'm Danielle. I'm happy to help facilitate a little bit today as we approach this topic. I also have Shelby joining me today. She will be keeping an eye on our chat for any questions that you want to ask there. And obviously, we have Jason Ramback to answer all of the questions regarding WordPress today. I'm going to turn it over to him so that he can start this discussion, talk a little about why he is the expert here at Pixo for WordPress, but also dig into what is happening and answer your questions. Over to you, Jay Ray.
Thank you, Danielle. Yes, my name is Jason Rambeck. I run the content managed website practice here at Pixo. I'm a developer, but also a consultant and head over our website practice. So I'm involved in all this stuff. We mostly use WordPress for our projects. And so this is kind of near and dear to our hearts, kind of thinking about what's going on and keeping our pulse on it these last several weeks. So yeah, so there's a lot to this. And first off, I want to apologize for not being dressed up in a fancy way. A lot of our Pixonaut folks here at the office were dressed up this morning. I got to see, and I was not one of them. So I'm just plain old black today. Anyway, but let's get started and dig in. So WordPress, what's going on? So the things that are going on is there's a dispute. And the dispute here is mostly, because it gets a little nuanced, between Matt Mullenweg, who is the founder of WordPress, the chairman of the WordPress Foundation, and something that I think a lot of us have learned over the years, the sole owner of WordPress.org. And the dispute is between, so far, mostly him and WP Engine. WP Engine is, I believe, the largest WordPress host in existence. They host from a perspective of how many clients host with them versus other WordPress hosts or even WordPress sites on other hosts. They're by far the biggest. So this is kind of a big deal in the whole economy of WordPress, is that they're two big dogs, I guess, in this fight that are affecting a lot of people, unfortunately, because so many people are on WP Engine, and those particular customers have kind of come into the crosshairs between this dispute. So a little bit more too about WP Engine is that they are owned by a private equity firm. And so and actually a little history, Matt Mullenweg's organization, Automatic, which is their for-profit organization, was an investor in WP Engine early on. So there's a lot of history there and whatnot. So let's get into, though, what are the accusations? So Matt's accused WP Engine of a trademark violation, and it's pretty simple. It's basically just the word WP in their name, which stands for WordPress. Even though they don't actually use the word WordPress, he's accusing them of that violation, and it actually demanded some compensation because of it. And there's another less sort of clear violation here, that he's just not happy that they're such a big organization and have benefited so much from WordPress and are not contributing back. And there's been some talk here about how Matt's organization, for-profit organization, has hundreds of hours each week thousands, I think, even that contribute to the code base of WordPress as an open source project. Whereas WP Engine, who is roughly the same size, and we're talking billion-dollar valuations here, with just one full-time person that contributes. So they do, but in a very, very limited way. And then on the WP Engine side, their accusations are extortion. And they've shared evidence that Matt has asked them or demanded that they share monetarily in their benefits because they're using the WP trademark and haven't contributed back in the normal way of an open source in open source contributions and want financial contributions instead. And then they're also accusing Matt of, and this is actually not an accusation, it actually happened. They've stolen the users of the ACF plugin. This is a very popular plugin. A lot of sites use it. I think there are in the millions of users who use this particular plugin that WP Engine owns. And so they, and I'll get to this in a second and show you kind of what's going on, but they essentially hostilely took over, or forcibly took over the user base of the free version of the ACF plugin. And I'll get into a couple details of what that means. And we use ACF on all of our projects almost. And it hasn't affected us for a few reasons, which I'll get to in a second. And so most of the people that are affected by this, by the way, are WP Engine hosting clients or people that are using the free version of the ACF plugin, which we don't use the free version, we use the paid pro version. Anyway, and then blocking updates on the WP Engine customer base. And I'll show you what that means actually right now. So blocking plugin updates. So this is what happened in a in a hotly contested and move. Matt Mullenweg blocked all of the WP Engine servers that host client websites from accessing WordPress.org. And what that means is that those websites cannot get plugin or theme updates on their website. And so I'm sort of showing a screenshot here of the plugin page. And so this page shows some plugins here, and you have an update button where you can just click a button to update it. This is a security sort of feature because most updates are related to either fixes, but a lot of times they're related to security. And plugins are oftentimes one of the points of area where a website becomes vulnerable to a security issue. So it's very important to keep plugins especially updated, but WordPress itself can be updated in this way too. So all of these WP Engine websites were blocked from being able to get this one-click update for WordPress, for plugins, for themes. Also, adding new plugins. I'll click here to the next page. So within WordPress itself, you can install plugins with a single easy search and single click. And again, for us as a company, we don't handle websites this way because we usually have bigger websites. They're handled in a much more structured way where developers push up code in a way that, again, would be hard for somebody like a WordPress.org to block because they'd have to block the whole internet because we're usually doing this on servers that are, or even our local laptops, and it just can't be targeted in this way like it can when you're using this tool inside of a WP Engine hosted website. So most of the people that were affected were small businesses, probably, or websites that were built kind of in this more loose way, where you kind of just use the user interface to do these kinds of things. Okay, so I will say too, though, that anybody can bypass this issue that was affected of not being able to do the single install now button by uploading a plugin, either a plugin from, go to WordPress.org on your own internet connection at home, download it, click this on your WP Engine website, and upload the file and install it. So there was always workarounds, but again, most people that were affected were people that aren't as savvy and know how to do this. And it wasn't done automatically, which is kind of a nice feature for a lot of these websites. The other big thing that happened was the hostile takeover of the ACF plugin. And again, this gets a little complicated, but the ACF plugin Again, a powerful plugin that allows for fields to be added to WordPress pages and whatnot in a easy way. And very popular. It's the free version is open source and hosted on WordPress.org. Being hosted on WordPress.org is a community place, and the ownership is a little bit muddy then of well, who owns it. Technically, the person who created it owns it. And what Matt Mullenweg ended up doing is creating a copy of ACF, the free version, renaming it, and then replacing it on the. Well, let me actually go to this next slide. He replaced it with the exact same code base, made a few changes, renamed it to secure custom fields. And and this is actually fine, but the most controversial thing is he replaced it on WordPress.org instead of creating a new plugin on WordPress.org. And so now there's 2 million active installations of the new Matt Mullenweg secure custom fields and not the WP Engine advanced custom fields. And so he basically hostilely or forcibly took over the ownership of this plugin for all the people using this free one, so that when they hit update, they now get updates from this version and not the old one. And so I'll jump back. The ACF website here has this big warning on their site that says that their plugin is no longer available on WordPress.org and that you can still use it, but you just have to download it one time from their site first, replace it, and then from there on out, you're fine. And so again, these things aren't hard to overcome, but for people who don't have a developer on staff or are not savvy with this kind of stuff, it was probably a big pain and still is. The other thing that was kind of a big deal too is that it was simply just a message or a checkbox. The checkbox that was heard around the world here, so to speak, was that to log into WordPress.org, which is where people that contribute plugins like this log in to update them and do different things, they added this checkbox here that said, I am not affiliated with Deep WP Engine in any way financially otherwise. And they sort of effectively kick people out of being able to do anything like kicking out WP Engine and any of their employees from doing anything, adding a new plugin, anything like that, updating their existing stuff. So this is something, the most interesting thing to me here is there's a lot of open source. It's been around for a long time. And there's one of the big things that has got a lot of people talking is, okay, well, what does all this mean? Open source. I thought open source was free. Anybody can do, like, this should be clear, like that not one person can do such devastating things. And this statement sort of summarized it for me, where Matt Mullenweg said that WordPress org just belongs to me. So the WordPress Foundation, which is like a lot of foundations, isn't controlled by just one person. There's a board and whatnot. That doesn't control WordPress.org. It controls the foundation and the trademark stuff and things like that. But the website that actually is integral to people being able to do these one-click updates and installs is owned by one person, Matt. And so he's able to do this legally and fairly in a way, although nobody's happy about it. The effects. So really, there's besides the effects of people on WordPress engine or WP engine having these issues that I already talked about, the trust in WordPress is ecosystem in particular is been degraded. And we don't know what that means long term. It's still somewhat new. And then the future of open source also feels like, because this is such a huge project, it's one of the, and I'll show some numbers here in just a second, because it's such a huge project, it is just, everything's being questioned. Like, how could one of the biggest open source projects in the world be affected by one person's decision? So I'll give you some numbers here to kind of put things in perspective. So 40% of all websites are WordPress. They're run by WordPress. That's a huge, huge, huge number. And these are enterprise sites, and the vast majority are small business marketing kind of sites. And so again, we mostly deal with enterprise, larger sites, so this doesn't affect us as much. Mostly it's the trust here that has affected us, but the but there's a lot of small business sites that are like, oh, I can't click and do things if Matt's unhappy with my host, maybe, or something will happen in that way. So there's an ecosystem around WordPress with 11,000 themes, 60,000 plugins, all hosted on WordPress.org, or most of them at least, not all. And I got this number here. It's a little bit old from a few years ago, but it's estimated that the WordPress ecosystem of themes and plugins and hosting companies and even I'm guess organizations like ours who do development on WordPress, it's a $635 billion with a B ecosystem. So it's big, and I think the question here, as we try to question whether WordPress is going to fail, it feels too big to fail in a sense. But I also think in this moment, um, I feel like this is a good moment in a sense because we're sort of pushing on the edges that we didn't know existed of what needs to be fixed. What did nobody realize needs to happen? And my personal opinion is this is gonna turn out for the better in a sense. There might still be a sting of trust that's still left in people's minds, but I think things will have to get worked out where people won't be happy that one person can do all these different things without a group saying or legal action or whatnot. And then in a year's time, maybe it'll all be kind of worked out and people will feel better about it. Anyway, so that's kind of the story. That's the disruption that's happened. We've been telling a lot of our clients, no worries, like we're set up in a different way. These things, if in order for us to be harmed, they would be harming everybody kind of in a way. And they're specifically targeting WP Engine clients right now. But that's not to say, yes, I understand there's trust that's been degraded here. And yeah, we're all kind of talking about what that means and to the community and everything. So that's kind of the story. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up because really we wanted this time for people to ask questions. And so with that, any questions that we have?